Hello, thank you for joining the Maryland Arts Budget Briefing webinar for the 2022 Maryland Legislative Session. My name is Nicholas Cohen. I'm the Executive Director of Maryland Citizens for the Arts, and I welcome you all. Thanks again for tuning in. We're going to go over today the current budget proposal for FY2023 from Governor Hogan. We'll talk about the Artist Relief Fund that we're proposing, some talking points to be had, action items, and followed by a discussion about Maryland Arts Day. So again, when looking at the fiscal year 2023 budget proposal, Governor Hogan proposed $28.8 million for the Maryland State Arts Council. The good news here is that is a $1.5 million increase from last year, and it finally includes the special fund. Many of you might remember in years past that the governor has either tried to remove the special fund or I guess try and cut it, but this year, after lots of work and a lot of our advocacy work, he has put it in the budget. Now, the sort of bad news here is that the actual mandated amount, so the amount that's written in law and how the budget is calculated, that amount should actually be $29.8 million, so $1 million more. And this comes from the Maryland General Assembly budget analyst. So they have a group, the General Assembly has a group that analyzes the governor's budgets. And you can think of this as sort of another set of eyes. As you can imagine, a $49 billion budget, the potential for mistakes, human error just happens. And so the budget analyst that looks at the State Arts Council budget and the proposal from the governor has found that the formula that they used was not correct. And so, the way that Maryland Citizens is looking at this is that, we're going to chalk this up as a potential miscalculation, or even if they ignored the formula, it's still a mistake. We're not looking at this as the governor trying to cut the budget necessarily, because it's not explicit. It's more just, it's not the right number. So again, I guess the good news here is that the governor increased the budget, but it's actually not just $1.5 million of an increase. It's actually $2.5 million. So also looking at this year's session, as many of us know, COVID has really been difficult on our sector. And so a recent MCA COVID study that was put out found that the total economic loss since March of 2020, this also includes any money that came in, like PPP loans and other emergency funds from the state, local, federal government. Even considering all of that, there still was $135 million total economic loss for the Maryland arts sector. So this actually brought us down from $1 billion industry to in the 800 million. So it's a very significant impact. There's also an $80 million reduction in audience spending since March of 2020, and 30,000 jobs were lost. So these are just some top of the line numbers, but they all paint a picture of continual devastation because of COVID shutdowns and the ongoing pandemic. And we know that this past fall, the recovery has been slow, and audiences coming back has been slowed even greater due to the different variants of COVID that have sprung up and sort of slowed audience recovery. So in total, we've gone to the General Assembly and asked them to support a $50 million arts and recovery fund. And so the way this works is the governor has put in his budget. Unfortunately, he has not put in any sort of recovery funds for any industry, really. And so we now have to work with the General Assembly to see if we can find a way to move money around and get 50 million for a recovery fund for the arts. What's working for us is that there's a huge budget surplus because of the American Rescue Plan Act that was passed last year. And so there's definitely room for support and recovery funds. But as we all know, the need is great across many different sectors and across different individuals and people that need help because of COVID and just the current state of affairs in our economy. So it's still a fight to sort of get our support in there. So thinking about talking points for our 2022 Maryland General Assembly session, first, as I mentioned, please support fully funding the State Arts Council at the fully mandated level of 29.8 million. Again, as I talked in a couple slides ago, the importance around this is knowing that, of course, we appreciate the governor, funding and sort of following the formulas per se, but now that we found that an analyst has caught the mistake, we're just going to tell the General Assembly that we want the full amount. There's no need to sort of talk about who made a mistake or what was missed. It's just saying 29.8 million. We sort of ignore the 28.8. We don't even reference that number so that lawmakers can focus on the higher amount. And then, of course, the second big one is please support $50 million for arts and recovery funding. And again, lawmakers are keenly aware that there's sort of money and extra funds in the state's budget this year to support different efforts. So they're going to understand the need, and we just have to make our case on why. And I think most of us can talk about the slow recovery and the hardship that we've all faced for the past almost 2 years. So some next steps, we will put together an email, we'll put together an email blast and a campaign talking about specifically the arts relief fund of 50 million. So please email your lawmakers when this alert goes out. It'll take a maximum of 2 minutes. Most of it will be pre-filed for you. You just have to put your name, your address, so it knows which lawmaker to engage. And we'll have a lot of the wording in there for you. You can also put in your own sort of personal touches and personal anecdotes in there. But we'll ask that you please fill that out. As I mentioned, it only takes a few minutes, but it's really powerful. The alert will be finalized early next week. It'll go out in an email, and we'll also do it on social media. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, additional updates will be posted and emailed out when appropriate throughout session, as we always do. So please pay attention to your emails, and we'll be sort of giving you updates on hearings and things like that. And of course, please consider, if you haven't done so already, signing up to attend the virtual Maryland Arts Day. Again, it'll be our second year virtual, but last year was super successful. We had over 600 virtual attendees. Again, the morning is going to be great. We've got a keynote address from Quanice Floyd, who was at Arts Education in Maryland Schools, their executive director. Now she's on the national scene working for the arts and arts education. So she has a lot of great things to talk about. And it'll be a really great keynote. We'll also have some words from elected officials. And I believe the Commerce Secretary is going to say a few words, and the First Lady as well. And of course, we'll have our budget realities and updates to go more into the budget. And then the best part is you'll be sent into different breakout rooms. That'll be your delegation rooms for the afternoon. And you'll get to meet with your lawmakers that represent you in Annapolis, of course, virtually. But you can then say your piece about why the arts are important and why we need to support it, especially now during this really difficult time. So again, this is going to be Thursday, February 17th, 2022. It'll start at 9 a.m. and it'll hopefully end around noon. So you'll have the rest of the afternoon, but definitely plan on attending. We've got also scholarships available for students and artists. So please consider registering today. And again, thank you all for listening. I hope this was helpful in sharing sort of where we are, some of the realities of what we need to fight for right now. If you have any questions, please email me directly. I'm happy to hear from you. As far as Maryland Arts Day, you can find registration on our website at mdarts.org. So please register, and thanks so much for joining.